Cleveland, so there's a natural kind of curiosity and interest from my Cleveland friends and family being in Pittsburgh. No love lost there. But just going through and seeing the success and seeing, a team and an organization that was doing things the right way, and the emphasis on doing things the right way, and being around some legendary players, the Troy Polamalu's, Heinz Ward, James Harrison's, like the list goes on and on, Ben. So just having that opportunity to kind of have some tough years in Detroit of losing seasons, to kind of go back home to Pittsburgh, and then go on a 12-4 regular season run, beat Baltimore 3 times, win the AFC North in Baltimore. It's like, the AFC Championship back in Pittsburgh. Like everything about it, if I were, making a movie, that would be the year I would clip and say, just follow, here's your script. It was that awesome of an experience. And, it seems like it was yesterday, and at the same time, it seems like it was a lifetime ago, all at the same time.
So let me let's go through this. So you're released by Detroit, and within 24 hours, you're over in Pittsburgh. How does that process work with your agent and with teams, and going from Detroit to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, so there really is no process. It's funny. It's and it happened to me a handful of times. That you can look up the transaction history. I found myself, looking for work more than I was making a team out of training camp. But like literally, I was in the Detroit locker room getting ready for our first practice of that, first week of the season. Final cuts had already happened. We had our 53-man roster, and there was a couple of lingering injuries on Detroit, I believe the O-line. So they wanted to add some depth. And so they knew I wasn't going to be available for that first week. I had a high ankle sprain. So they released me thinking there's a good chance we'll be able to bring him back after week 1. But literally you go from being released, which is like literally, hey, give us your playbook. Best of luck to you. Shake your hand. See you later. And that's it. There is no, there's no big, long, drawn out exit. You don't go say goodbye to everybody. It's, hey, playbook, see ya. And then within literally a few hours, I had a call from my agent. They're based out of Maryland. And he said, hey, you're going to get a phone call. It's going to be a 412 number. Answer your phone. And it was the Steelers. And I can't remember exactly who it was the first call. I don't think it was Coach Tomlin. I forget who it was. It wasn't Kevin Colbert. But and eventually the second phone call was Tomlin. And literally the conversation was, hey, like we were watching Cincinnati when you were down in Detroit and, week 3 of the preseason, like loved what we saw. You think you could come do that here in Pittsburgh for the next 17, weeks? And sure. So the next day I'm driving from Detroit to Pittsburgh, and that was that. And then at that point, it's like try to scramble, find an apartment. I have the clothes I have in my bag with me. But there is no, hey, we're going to give you a couple of days to get moved in and settled in. It's, hey, here's what time the first team meeting is. Show up. And so it all happens very, very quickly. Fortunately, I was been married for a few years, so my wife kind of handled everything at home. We had a son at the time, or our son at the time. But there's no time. It's you go from one locker room to the other locker room, and you're expected to jump right in. There is no transition time.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You came into that team, basically you were signed to back up Heath Miller, who was basically like he was really getting into his prime at that point. I believe Matt Spaeth was probably their backup. Okay. Yep. Was there a third tight end, or were you?
I was the third tight end. And so one of the things, and I'll never tell you I was a Heath Miller or a Matt Spaeth, but, one of the things that kept me in the NFL for 6 seasons as a late round pick is I could play fullback too. So I was able to kind of fill 2 roster spots as a backup position by being able to play, your third tight end in our jumbo packages, but I can also line up in the I formation and play your old school fullback, even at 6'5", which don't look like an old school fullback, but that was kind of one of the reasons why I was able to hang around the league. And what Pittsburgh saw in me that made me valuable to them is like, hey, we can have a guy backing up 2 spots, which saves a roster spot for another player when you can play 2 positions. So I got to back up Heath and Spaeth and then play some time there at fullback, kind of splitting time with Kerry Davis.
You were primarily a fullback at Penn State, correct?
I was. I went to Penn State as a tight end and never played tight end after my freshman season.
Okay.
After my freshman season, they moved me to fullback. And in high school, again, this was high school, but I was a running back in high school. And senior year, I was 6'5", 255 pounds, rushed for 2,000 yards in high school. So I was always used to playing in the backfield. Again, not your prototypical fullback, if you will. But having some background in it and, the Penn State experience, it was easier to move from fullback to tight end than the other way around. So having that versatility helped.
Funny story about those big backs. When I played high school football, I played for a really good team, had a couple of All-Americans on it, Bloomington, Illinois. My senior year in the quarterfinals of the playoffs, we had to go up and play Joliet Catholic.
Ooh.
And we were, you've heard of them. We had just beat a number 7 in the nation ranked East St. Louis Senior in the second round of the playoffs. So then we go up to Joliet Catholic. We're dominating them in the first half. And they had this big fullback that they didn't really use much. And then, at least in that first half, I don't know what he did prior to that, but they started handing him the ball in the second half. And I think we were up 13 points and we ended up losing by like 17 because we could not tackle this guy. And his name was Mike Allstott.
I was just going to say, sounds like Allstott.
Yeah. Oh my God. That dude was a man among boys.
A different breed. I used to love, and in my head, I was going to be the next Mike Allstott. Didn't happen. But I remember watching him at Purdue and just seeing this guy who could not be tackled.
Yeah,
and just the way he ran, the violence he ran with, and then did the same thing in the NFL for a long, long time at a very high level. But man, he made some people look stupid. And just deceptive as an athlete, but no question, the guy could lower his shoulder and deliver a hit like no running back really could.
And you joined the league kind of at the end of what you would call the traditional fullback's life.
Yep.
Like you don't see those guys anymore, especially us being Steeler fans. Like, we got used to guys like John L. Williams, John Whitman, Dan Kreider, Tim Lester, the true lead back guys. And then as you kind of got into the league, everybody started going to that hybrid, that guy, that pass catcher who could block a little bit. You were obviously more the big back type, whereas Kerry Davis wasn't really known as a giant mauler type. But it was kind of nice. Like you said, you could fill those two roles. And I remember Kerry Davis got hurt, which I believe led to your first start.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah.
Yep. Well, and it's the reality of this league. It's like, sometimes your opportunities, they come from someone's misfortune. But to your point, having the versatility, and as the NFL has evolved, it's very hard for teams to justify a true blocking tight end. I think about, like we mentioned, the Dan Kreider in Detroit, there was Corey Schlesinger, who are just like your old school I formation, power ISO, like
kill the linebacker
coming through there, where you found guys, hey, well, this guy can play a little bit tight end. We can split him out and he can get back in the backfield and do enough, where we can justify not carrying a true fullback and freeing up a roster spot. Because it's one of the biggest challenges in the NFL is your depth. It's a long season and 53 guys sounds like a lot, but it's really not, of, trying to keep guys healthy and managing, the depth on your roster so you can make a run into the postseason.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about the guy that we just got from Indiana, who is a lot like you in that he can play both of those positions fairly well, that Riley Nowakowski.
Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting. I'm excited. I mean, between Steelers and the changes they've had in coaching and some new, guys they brought in, Penn State's got a new head coach. We got Drew Aller starting, from Penn State, joining the Steelers camp. So it's like, I couldn't be more excited about everything coming up over the next just couple of weeks. It's just going to be awesome.
I'm sorry, Deez. I'm glad that you touched on that, Sean. And I was going to bring that up because I watched, I think it was a little short clip of you talking about Drew Aller as a quarterback out there. What does he bring to the Steelers franchise over there in Pittsburgh? I know you were saying that the offense was completely wrong for him. They were running the RPO. Him as being a quarterback in the NFL, do you think that he has the tools and that he can be a bona fide starting quarterback in this league and carry a team to potentially a Super Bowl?
So physically, 100%. I believe he has every physical tool to be an exceptional quarterback in the NFL for a long, long time. My big question mark with Drew Aller is the mental part of the game. And it's not really a fault of Drew's, right? It's like we mentioned, like he didn't come from an NFL style offense. I don't think the play calling and the system Penn State ran suited Drew Aller very well at all. And then there's some questions there, like, well, why not? Did they see stuff that we don't see? But I do believe physically he has all the tools. And kind of like I mentioned on, a previous podcast, I think the biggest benefit for him is having a year, maybe 2 years to sit and learn how to be an NFL quarterback, learn the game. He's going to get all the reps he wants. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to take a bunch of reps during training camp. So you got the 3 guys left to get reps. But being able to kind of have Aaron Rodgers as a mentor and not be forced into that starting role right off the get-go, I think is going to be a huge advantage for him. And I think if he gets the mental part of the game down, gets a little bit of confidence in him, I do think we see him have a very productive NFL career, all based on that one part. Does the mental part of the game click for him where he can settle down and let his physical tools take over? Or does the game get to be too big for him? Which is kind of, again, my question mark as a fan of both Penn State and the Steelers is, how's this going to work out? But again, I think he has a benefit where it's like, I don't need you to be the guy today. I need you to be the guy in a year or 2 years. So you have the time, which I think is going to be really, really helpful for his overall development.
Yeah, the thing about, Drew Aller, a lot of people talk about how he never, he didn't have any weapons really in Penn State.
I couldn't name a wide receiver that he had. And I'm a Penn State diehard, and I couldn't tell you.
Tyler Warren at tight end, and that was it. And then obviously we know that the coaching situation there was not very good. And the name escapes me now, but there was a guy that was on one of the daily podcasts who was on that Penn State staff who was just giddy about Drew Aller going to Pittsburgh under Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, because Franklin's coaching staff just didn't seem to serve Drew Aller's skill set the way that it could have had he been somewhere else. And we're in kind of a Hatfield and McCoy situation here in Steeler Nation, because you've got a large group of Steeler fans that are Penn State fans, and then you've got a large group of Steeler fans that are Ohio State fans.
Yep.
So hell, Dave and I argue almost every week over Will Howard, Drew Aller. I like Will Howard. I hope Will Howard makes Drew Aller irrelevant. However, like you said, the physical tools, I don't think that there's a comparison between the two, but Will Howard won a championship. Seems like he's got the right mindset, but he also had an entire roster of NFL players. And Drew Aller literally had Tyler Warren for like 2 years, and that's based and no defense. So
I think you just nailed it. And I think I could go step on the field and play quarterback for Ohio State and complete some passes to the talent he had around him. And I think Franklin at Penn State did a really good job of bridging Penn State into kind of the new era of college football. I think he's an excellent recruiter. I think he's a very good football coach. I don't think he's a great coach, or you would have won some bigger games. But I agree with you where I don't think they used Aller's talents the way it should or where they could have. And I always look at coaches of you have the coaches of here's my system, and whatever players we have, we're going to jam into this system. And then you have the coaches who are like, okay, what talent do I have? What system's going to fit best? So we can stay true to who we are, but also take advantage of the talent and the players we have. And I don't think Aller got the benefit of that. I mean, I don't know how many times, I don't know if you guys ever watched Penn State, but how many times can you run a stupid swing pass on first or second down and pick up 2 or 3 yards? And now you're behind the sticks. Now you got to make much more challenging third down plays, which isn't easy for a quarterback. And then on top of that, like you said, other than Tyler Warren, he didn't have a receiver to go make him look good. And I think, every good quarterback has a couple of receivers that bail him out once in a while, go make the big catch, find a way to get a jump ball. Aller never had any of that. So I'm excited to see kind of how these next few years go for him.
Sean, we went through 3 seasons of Matt Canada. We know exactly what it's like to watch a swing pass.
Well,
I don't know. Maybe it is old school, but I'm like, what are we doing? This is the best thing you can dial up. I can sit here in my living room couch and call better plays, and no one's paying me the millions of dollars that you're getting paid to do this job. It was so frustrating. And then again, it always goes back, in my opinion, to Franklin of this is what you're allowing to have happen. And I think if you look at Aller's career, it's almost like he regressed. And I think even wondering if his coaches had confidence in him. And I think it starts to bleed into, who he was as a player. So I think a fresh start. I think he's going to have great support. Like you mentioned, there's going to be good Penn State fans supporting him in Pittsburgh and rooting for him. But it will be interesting because, being a Penn State guy, I watched Will Howard for all those years. And he's a very capable quarterback too. So I think if you're a Steelers fan, it's a good position to be in, right? Like,
Yeah.
Let's see who's going to, what you're going to rise to the top. It's a good problem to have. If you're one of those two guys, you kind of hope the old iron sharpens iron and, gets the best out of both of them and see what things, kind of shake out towards the end of camp.
I want nothing more than for us to not have to worry about drafting a quarterback next year. Like, I want one of those guys, whether it's Will, Drew, or both. I want one of those guys to shine over the course of these next, 6 weeks and basically show the front office that we don't need to go out and spend a first-round pick on one of these guys. That's my only wish.
I agree. And I think taking a third-round pick – I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted to ask you too. I know that they drafted Will Howard in the 6th round as a quarterback that's going in there after missing your first year, half of your first year with an injury, and you didn't even get a chance to see the field. Now the Steelers go and draft Drew Aller in the 3rd round. What's kind of your mindset as a quarterback or a player to say, hey, they got another guy at this position. He was decent in college. He was projected to be a first-round draft pick. I got drafted in the 6th round. How do you work on yourself to get yourself past that, to try and get yourself to be the starting quarterback? Well, not the starting quarterback right now, but in the future.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. It's something I experience pretty much every season, right? Because there was always somebody they were bringing in, who was maybe drafted higher, had more hype about him. I think for a guy like Will Howard, I think, what he has to do going into this camp is block out all the noise. It's no longer about when you were drafted, who was drafted, and go compete. And I always say, like, you have to give the Steelers like 0 reasons, 0 why they could think about getting rid of you. And I think that's kind of the approach is like Drew Aller is going to make that football team. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, yeah.
Barring something catastrophic happening, outside of normal, but it's not going to be performance related in the 3rd round when you have Aaron Rodgers as your starter. Like, Drew Aller makes that football team. So
do you think it's Will Howard or Aaron Rodgers, Will Howard, Drew Aller?
So in an ideal world, as a Steelers fan, I'd say yes, because now we got 2 young guys to develop. As a short term this season, if anything happens to Aaron Rodgers, do I want Rudolph on the roster? Maybe. If one of those guys hasn't become a clear front runner where you say, like, as an organization, if anything happened to Aaron, we feel comfortable that one of these 2 guys can go in, maybe not win us a bunch of games, but they're not going to cost us games. And then we'll rely on our defense and other players around them. I think we'll know a lot more in a few weeks. But I don't know. I don't know if you see Howard and Aller on the roster together. But again, there's people getting paid a lot more money than I am to make those decisions in the Steelers front office. But that's one of the kind of storylines I'm excited to follow this camp.
The word around town with the guys that are like plugged in basically say that the Steelers are going in with the mindset of Rudolph as the backup, unless Will Howard just leaps off the page and takes the job from Rudolph. And supposedly they're going to give Will all the reps in the world to prove that, because they know what they got in Mason. He's a solid backup. Yeah. And with the roster that they've built around him, I think Mason can go in and win a handful of games should Aaron go down. But it's up to Will, I think, to take that job and show them that they don't need Mason anymore.
No, I completely agree.
And here's my other question to you, Sean. So say if Will or Drew doesn't make the roster and they go to the practice squad, they can be protected by the team, correct? Where no other team can grab them. Isn't that how the practice squad works?
So I'm going to have to check the new rules. So when I was in the league, you could be signed off of another team's practice squad. And the only way that current team that you're on the practice squad could stop it is to activate you to the active roster. So, and again, it's changed because, when I was playing, I think we had 6 guys on practice squad. That was all you're allowed. Now I think there's 17 or 18 guys. It's completely changed. But that, at least when I was playing, the only way a team could protect you is say, okay, you're going to sign him off of our practice squad. We're going to go ahead and activate him. And then at that point, again, this was when I was playing, the player had the choice. okay, I can go play for this team. They're going to sign me to the active roster, or, my current team said they'd elevate me to the active roster to keep me here. But you had a choice if you wanted to stay. Most guys typically stay. Moving teams is not easy or fun. But I had to double check on what it is now. But I think that ends up the move is you stick one of those guys on practice squad and let them develop there.
I'm looking at it right now. It says every Tuesday teams can designate 4 players as protected, so they can't be placed on another team's active roster from that day until kickoff.
Interesting.
So they do have an opportunity to protect him if they can sneak him on the practice squad.
Wow. That's I just learned that.
Yeah, it's like a little insurance policy these teams have now. I didn't know that.
All right, Sean, I know that you got stuff to do today, but I just wanted to go down memory lane for happier times there. If you could go back to that team, 2008, and obviously I know that you were close. I heard you speak on it on the Sick podcast with Spaeth and Heath, but looking at the rest of that team, who are, a couple of guys that you loved to either watch or interact with, like, just guys that you really think fondly of back on that team?
Yeah. So number one, the old small world story is, so Ben's from Ohio as well. Ben and I both graduated high school in 2000. So I actually played 2 games with Ben before either of us were even in Pittsburgh. When we played in a couple of high school all-star games together. So that was cool for me because I'd followed Ben just knowing in high school and then his career at Miami. So getting to kind of I don't want to say reunited, but having followed his career, being an Ohio guy, being the same class. But I think, what stands out, player-wise is, for as many star players, this is what I love to tell people, were on that team because there were a lot of star players. I mean, you talk about James Harrison. I mean, that whole defense was a star player. Same thing on offense. You had young guys. You had, like a Willie Parker, a Santonio Holmes, but then you also had Hines Ward, who'd been doing it forever. You had Ben, who was kind of in the middle of his career, I think year 5 or 6. So but there was no ego on that team. It was, and I'd been in, a couple different teams, whether it's, NFL, college, and there was always some ego that created some friction and got in the way, in my opinion, of the ultimate success. But on that team, it truly didn't matter who made the play. If offense had a great game, if defense had a great game, it was never us versus them, or I'm not getting enough touches because I'm Santonio Holmes, or I'm Hines Ward and I'm going to be a Hall of Famer. I should be it was never any of that. It was always focused on one thing, and that was, how do we win the next game? And that was all anybody cared about. And one of the things I loved about Tomlin, and personally, I thought he was an excellent head coach of managing that team, is he had a saying, the standard is the standard, and it doesn't change. And he would say it to me, Heath Miller gets dinged up, Spaeth is, 2 tight end package, you got to go in. We expect the same performance we get out of Heath Miller. I don't care that you're not Heath Miller. That's the standard. The standard's the standard. And everyone in that locker room felt that way. And it's not easy joining a team at the beginning of the season because someone just got released to make room for you to come onto that team who had been in training camp with them, who had earned their respect. But just being welcomed and knowing that you're here to help us win a Super Bowl, and that's the only reason you're here, and that's the only goal that we have. And everyone in this organization is working towards that goal, where I hadn't been in an organization. When I was in Detroit back in the day, it was we're hoping to have a winning season. If we made the playoffs, that would be cool. You got to Pittsburgh and the stand, and everyone kind of fit into that. But just seeing, again, it didn't matter if James Harrison, had more opportunities for a sack, or Lamar Woodley, or, who was getting more touches in the backfield, like Rashard Mendenhall or Willie. It didn't matter. Whatever we got to do to win, that's what we're going to do to win. And everyone supported that. And I think that was what made that team as special as it was.
And Sean, I know you got to run here. First and foremost, again, thank you for taking time out of your morning to spend with us. Hopefully we can get you back on.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love talking ball.
Hopefully we can get you back on in the future. But real quick, I know you got a Super Bowl ring, and I seen you talk about it on, I think it was a shorts on Facebook. How often do you wear that thing? And do you still have it? And is it put away in a safe?
Yeah, it's It's kept nice and safe next to my my collection of firearms in a nice heavy safe. I I'll do like speaking engagements once in a while, and I'll pull it out because the symbolism of it, and kind of overcoming adversity, and but it really doesn't come out that often. You get friends and family that want to see it when they're over; they haven't seen it before. But typically, unless I'm like actually like going and speaking to a high school team or even some businesses, like I'll use it as a symbol, right? But it's probably one of my most prized possessions, not because of the ring and what it looks like, but of just like what it represents to me, to my family, and more than just me, and of like all the people who supported me and believed in me. Like I'll be the first one as a 7th round draft pick, and like I said, you ask 100 people who I am, 100 of them aren't going to know. But the people who supported me through all the ups and downs, never stopped believing in me. Like I've just been very lucky to have teammates, coaches, family members, all the way from growing up in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, people who always supported me. So like that's kind of what it means to me. And whenever I do see it, it's like that's my reminder. And then I kind of ask myself, like, am I being that for somebody else right now? Am I giving that support to someone? And it's kind of always that reminder. So it'll never leave that safe more than to show somebody, again, unless I'm doing some kind of engagement. But it's a great reminder of that season and how much fun and how special that was.
Awesome.
Well, thank you again, Sean. We appreciate you, man. And
yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Appreciate it.
Hopefully we can bump into you again or get you on here during the season a couple times, and maybe we'll see you at Latrobe or at a game or something, Sean.
Absolutely, man. Like I said, I'm in Pittsburgh all the time, so next time we're got a home game, I'll look you guys up.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sean.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick before you go, Vergatory or Paninis or
Hermanis.
Permani.
Ah, yes.
Permani.
Yes.
I don't drink alcohol anymore, but there was nothing better after a night of being out than a sandwich stacked up with this thick bread with French fries and coleslaw to soak up whatever you had in your belly from earlier that night. So
you made my day, Sean.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Yep, you too, bud. All right. Sean McHugh.
How was that, man?
That was awesome. Yeah, super chill guy. And again, we didn't really touch on it enough, but to go from literally the Detroit Lions to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that was the Detroit team that went 0-16. Like NFL Network even did a feature on him in the lead up to the Super Bowl. But this is a guy that literally dodged 0-16 the year Dan Orlovsky famously runs out of the back of the end zone, and he gets picked up by the Pittsburgh Steelers, who were coming off of a huge disappointment in that loss to Jacksonville in the playoffs. Everybody was already calling for Tomlin's head for choking that game away. And then to go on that run, win that Super Bowl, that's a hell of a story. Like that's no matter how much he played. I know, he'd back up whatever he got on the field, he got a ring, but like that story alone is worth a TV movie. Like, from the depths of NFL hell to the highest of highs, winning a Super Bowl in Tampa. That's just incredible.
Yeah, he talked about that real quick briefly, and I'm pretty sure we'll have him on again, man. Sean, again, thank you for coming on, man. It's first time us ever having a Super Bowl champion on the podcast. So that's what we're going to do more and more here throughout the season on Steel City Renegades. I know me and D's going to be working on a lot more guests, doing better show prep to get you guys, make this the #1 Steelers podcast out there. Reach out to other Steelers podcasts and see if they'll come on, maybe do a cross show or whatever with some other teams and whatever. But yeah, so D's 2 more days, training camp opens. What are you most looking forward to in this training camp?
Before we get to that, I have to apologize to you. I don't know if you know this or not, but I fucked up. I did not have us live on YouTube for like the first 10 minutes of the show.
Well, Shane was messaging us.
I had somebody message me too saying that they couldn't see it or whatever. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I pulled it up on my other monitor here and it said upcoming. I'm like, what do you mean upcoming? And then I looked over at where we were streaming and it was the 3 Facebook pages. Like, oh, fuck.
It's okay, Deez. It's okay.
Yeah. I was excited. Like, I was nervous. But anyway, as far as this camp, man, again, couple of the big battles, obviously the quarterback situation, all eyes are going to be on that. I want to see what Will Howard can do. I want to see, I'm not so much curious about Drew Aller because look, at the end of the day, he's a rookie. So I don't expect him to come in and just absolutely light it up. His mechanics are being rebuilt from the ground up. If it's there, awesome. But I'm more excited to see Will Howard show us what he can do. I know I give you guys a lot of shit for Will and Ohio State and everything, but I would love nothing more than for Will Howard to, and this is not a knock on Mason, I like Mason, but I want Will Howard to send Mason packing. I want them to leave no doubt that they don't need Mason Rudolph anymore. I would love for that to happen. So that's the main thing I'm going to watch. The second, probably most important thing would be obviously the offensive line and who's going to step up there. Spencer Anderson and Dylan Cook are probably penciled in right now on the right side. So I want to see what Brock Hoffman, Jennings Dunker in that guard slot, and then obviously Maxi Hanachor in that right tackle slot, see if they can progress. And then the receivers, Jeremy Bernard and I hate to even mention his name again, Roman Wilson. Like, you got to show us something, Rome. And I think that if Roman doesn't show right away that he is ready to finally step up and seize a spot in this offense, then I think Pittsburgh might start to look outside. And no, I don't think it's going to be for fucking Devontae Adams or Brandon Ayuk or any, situation like that, but somebody that can come in and be your four. They don't need a superstar. They need a consistent four, because I think Jeremy Bernard's going to be legit.
I heard a couple names that would be available or that are still available. Let me ask you this question about a number 4. How about D-Hop? Would you bring him in as a number 4?
Yeah, I'd look at him for sure. If you could get him cheap, I would definitely look at him. He's a guy that could plug in the 1 or 2 spot if you had to. He's got the knowledge, even if he doesn't quite have the physical tools anymore. But I still think he could be serviceable. Yeah. It's whether or not, like, how desperate is he going to be? You know what I mean? Would he rather wait around for a 1 or 2 spot, or would he be willing to, at the end of August, come in and say, look, you're the number 4 unless somebody gets hurt?
What about this? What about if they move Bernard to the number 4 and him to the number 3, whoever they get? Because there's a couple other guys that are on that I want to talk about. How about Tyreek Hill? Can you get him at maybe a number 3?
I got to see it right now. Tyreek Hill says that his leg isn't there. Like, he's not ready.
Okay.
I think if Tyreek Hill was physically ready or even close to physically ready, he'd be on a team right now. There was literally a report that just came out that said that he is not even close to getting back to running speed, running routes, things like that. So I don't know we're going to see Tyreek Hill until midseason.
What about either Stephon Diggs or maybe Debo? Both are free agents.
I would probably take a chance on Diggs before Debo. I think Debo is a gimmick. He has his ups and downs, but I would probably go Diggs for Debo. But again, I don't want to bring a guy in and promise him the 3 spot when I'm hype about Jeremy Bernard. I have not seen a single person within the group of people that know that have a bad thing to say about Jeremy, goddammit, Bernard. Like, I think Jeremy Bernard is going to push to be number 2. And that's no knock on Michael Pittman, because I think Michael Pittman is a stud and is going to, but I think that they're going to have a hard time keeping Bernard off the field.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And you talked about your most, what you were looking for the most with the quarterback situation. With me going into training camp, it is how Mike McCarthy prepares this team for the regular season and how he gets them to play for him, knowing that Tomlin will, for 19 years, you're coming in, you're 62 years old, you've got a completely new offensive system that you're running. basically a completely new defensive system. You're running, all your coaches are brand new. How does he put all that together and mesh that? And again, I would love to see Will Howard take the 2 spot. And I'm a Drew Aller fan, getting on this roster. But keeping Mason around is good for these young boys and for Rodgers, because Aaron and him are very comfortable together, and that may determine on if Will's on the practice squad or Drew Aller's on the practice squad, or if one of them people make the team. I'm just saying that's how I'm looking at it.
Drew will not be on the practice squad. That I'm telling you right now, unless he breaks his leg, Drew Aller is not going to get cut to get signed on the practice squad. It's not going to happen. Period.
Well, you don't have to be cut to be put on the practice squad.
Yes, you do. You have to clear waivers. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he can't be one of the 4 protected throughout the week?
No, you have to get released and clear waivers, and then you can get signed to the practice squad. Then they can put you on protected. That's why if anybody is going to the practice squad, it's going to be Will Howard, because Will Howard, maybe he shows a little, but not enough that makes a team go, we got to get that guy. So you cut him, and then you're like, look, we're going to release you, but we're immediately going to sign you to the practice squad because we want you here. We want you around this system, because going forward, you're going to be in the plans. Now, that's not to say that another team won't come and say, hey, we liked what we saw. We want you to be our number 2 right now. Then Will Howard's gone. But for anybody that doesn't know, Drew Aller is on this team unless he commits a felony. Like, he is not going anywhere. You don't cut 3rd-round picks unless something super drastic happens.
Well, okay.
And I know people are, let's keep 4. No, there's no need to keep 4 quarterbacks. None. Because if you keep 4 quarterbacks,
if Mason gets released, he'll have a job tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Mason, which is, I think that realistically, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I want Will Howard to take that job. I want Will Howard to be uncuttable so that Mason can go and, get on with his life's work somewhere else. Because like you said, somebody will pick him up, even whether it's a 2 or a 3. Mason's not going to anybody's practice squad. Somebody will pick him up. And so I want that to happen, but if Will Howard doesn't absolutely rip that job away from Mason, then he's got to go, because at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is 42 going on 43. Shit happens. If Aaron Rodgers goes out there and, breaks his pinky and needs to miss 3 games or whatever, I feel a lot better today with Mason Rudolph starting a few games over the other 2 guys. And I think that's the way the Steelers are looking at it.
And Aaron is older, 40, going to be 42. He'll miss 1 or 2 games this year. So we're going to have a serviceable backup quarterback. And if it's Mason, it's Mason. If it's Will, it's Will. If it's Drew Allard, it's Allard. But they're going to be prepared with Mike McCarthy and D. Ruggiero as their offensive coordinator. So they'll be prepared. The other thing I'm looking forward to is this defense. You've changed defensive coordinators. You got Patrick Graham in there now. You've said it multiple times. You were blue in the face. He's never had talent like this before. In any situation he's been in, not even New England, not the Raiders. He's got bona fide Hall of Famers on this team, multiple players that can make plays. I want to see this defense step up and at least win us 2 to 3 games this year, because I think they can do that. I think this is a make or break year too for TJ Watt. If he doesn't have double-digit sacks, more than 15, I think it's about time to sell the ship on that and see what you can get for him in the offseason next year.
Yeah, this year it's not going to happen. He's basically, in my opinion, untradeable because of his contract. However, after this season, they have some outs. Now, I personally, and again, I'm going to throw my ever famous caveat on it of health, because I think that means everything. If TJ Watt can stay healthy, I think he is going to make people eat a lot of shit sandwiches. Everybody wants to talk about how the decline of TJ Watt and over the last 2 years. Well, remember 2 years ago, that offense was horrible. Russell Wilson got figured out. We could not stay on the field offensively. TJ Watt was tired. He was getting the shit beat out of him because he was on the field 40 minutes out of 60 every game. Last year, he gets a pain-killing shot and they puncture his lung. He comes back and struggles. And while he'll never admit it, that affects you. Like, he was never 100% again after that. So I think, like you said, I do think this is make or break, but I'm leaning way more on the make side than the break side, because I don't think TJ, for one, it looks like TJ's bulked up. I think that TJ is going to transition a little bit more power than finesse this year, kind of the way Big Bro did it, JJ. But I think he knows that, hey, I've got two young dogs back here trying to get on the field. I'm going to go out here and show this team and everybody else that I'm not done yet.
Absolutely. And I hope he's got that mindset and does that, because we know what he can be when he is healthy, and he's one of the best defensive players in the league. And I just need him to get back to that form. You got big money. So, I mean, let's hope that TJ Watt can get there. Also, what I'm looking at is the back end of this defense too, as well. You upgraded that. You got Brisker back there. You got Savage. You got Elliott, who's coming back.
Jamel
Dean from Washington. You spent a lot of money on defense. That was their first signing. Their first signing this year was defense with Dean. So let's hope that defense, like I said, D's can win us 2 to 3 football games, because that's what we need. We need them to create turnovers, keep the offense on the field, and hopefully with this new offensive system, we can put up some points. And listen, we talk about how old Aaron Rodgers is, right? We talk about the offensive production of the Steelers team. Let's remember, we were 10-7 last year with a stagnant offense, and Rodgers was still in the top 15 as a quarterback in the league. I would love to see Rodgers throw anywhere from 28 to 33 touchdown passes, 35 to 3,800 yards, and only have 9 or 10 interceptions this year. And for those of you people who are saying that the Steelers can't make the playoffs, if you can't win one more game than you did last year with a better roster, then there's something wrong with you.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, you can go 11-6. What game was it that we were up and we lost because of our offense? Was that the Seattle game? We lost to Seattle, right?
Yeah. That was the game that Caleb Johnson had the big fuck up. What, week 2?
Yeah,
week 2 or 3, home opener. Lets the kickoff roll back. Back to that defense. Jack Sawyer is another one that I'm going to have my eyes on.
Yeah,
I want to see if he's going to take that leap and basically make them put him on the field more, because Cam's talking about him, about how he has added just a lot of muscle. And I met him at the draft, and that's a large man. Like, you see him on TV, it doesn't do him justice exactly how big Jack Sawyer is. And if he can take that leap, then, you really do have some decisions to make in the offseason, whether it's Highsmith or Watt or both or whatever, because you just paid Nick Herbig. So yeah, there's so many fun camp situations that we're going to keep our eye on to see who is going to basically shape this team for the foreseeable future. Everybody says, oh, they're old. They're really not. You got Aaron. Yeah, he's old. Pittman and DK getting to that hill, but Cam obviously on the other side is old, but everybody else is pretty young, very young secondary. You got young linebackers, you got young edges behind the two guys. Like, there's a lot to be excited about, not just this season, but going forward. And if we answer the quarterback question, we'll know, if that Super Bowl window is going to open or be opened. I think by the end of this year, we'll know if we have a quarterback. We'll know, how this defense is going to come together with these young guys in their second, third, fourth years under a new scheme that isn't handcuffed by a head coach that is afraid to take chances.
And finally, we got a number 2 wide receiver. It only took us like 4 years to get one. I mean, with Michael Pittman and the offensive pieces that they've added with Rico Dowdle, and they also got a blocking tight end with Tunyon. Who else did they get over there? Michael Pittman Jr., Bernard, Riley Nowakowski, like you said, just some pieces. They also got Eli Heidenreich, which is they're talking high about him. Maybe Homer's not on this team, but he'll find a way if he's on the special teams because we did lose a couple special teamer guys. But again, Dees, I'm looking forward to this offense and see how it plays out throughout the season because Mike McCarthy, he's a guru when it comes to offense, and we know that Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback knows that offense better than anybody out there. So that was probably the main reason why he came back is because Mike McCarthy and the West Coast offense.
If they stay healthy, and people are going to get sick of hearing me say that, but at the end of the day, that's really all that matters. If they stay healthy, I don't see any reason why this offense can't be top 10 or right at that level, 10, 11, 12 in the league. Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he's 42 going on 43, but I'm willing to bet he's still got one of the top 5 arms in the NFL right now. He can't get out and scramble and make plays downfield the way he used to, but if you give him a solid 3 seconds, there's not a throw on the field that he can't make.
Not only talking about arm too, great mind, because he doesn't turn the football over. And that's what you need as the starting quarterback too, as well. He doesn't turn the football over. So the rest of the stuff will play out, but he's, like you said, he's got a great arm still, top 5, maybe top 10 in the league, and a great mind. So put them two together, you got yourself a decent quarterback. And I'm okay with having a decent quarterback if it gets us wins.
I agree 100%. I'm geeked, man. Tuesday, well, I say Tuesday, but we won't know shit Tuesday because that's just when they report. But I can't wait to start seeing the reports coming in after Wednesday's practice and see, as things progress through the end of July and into August as to who's making plays in Latrobe, depending on what part of Western Pennsylvania you live in. I've heard it said both ways. But yeah, I can't wait to watch all the guys, Caboli and DK and all them to see what they're seeing every single day there at the campus.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We got about 4 minutes left to go, D's, on the show. Tell us where they can find us each and every Sunday from here on out until the end of the football season.
Redline Radio right here on the YouTube that you may not have been able to find for the first 10 minutes of the show. You can also look us up on Facebook at both Steel City Renegades and Steelers Group Therapy. We simulcast to both of those channels. I didn't even add my YouTube channel to it, but obviously our preferred destination for you to watch it is the Redline Radio Network YouTube page. That's where we're going to make the donuts when we finally have donuts to make. But yeah, we're going to be here every Sunday before the games. I might even try my hand again at the during the game live streams, but I don't know. I'm 0 for the century trying to do that. Like every time I tried to live stream during the game, we got the break speed off of us. So I'm a little gun shy about pulling the trigger on that again, but we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely, man. And you can find us each and every Sunday here from 10 a.m. until 11. And make sure, ladies and gentlemen, I know there's some of this in Pittsburgh. Make sure you guys go out there and get yourself some Outlaw Light. This is the official beer of Redline Radio. If you want to get some of that, take yourself a picture with the Outlaw Light beer, tag Outlaw Light and Redline Radio or Redline Network, and we'll put you in a drawing to win some free beer. But yeah, I'm excited. These 2 more days away from training camp starting. I'll be there August 16th, Sunday. Hopefully you can join me for that day, but I know that you said it's
going to be tough.
But I got a ticket for you if you're coming. So
yeah, we need to if I don't make it this year, what we need to do is plan something a little more firm next year so that I can budget vacation time and make the trek out there, because I definitely want to do it. Like I watch videos and everything of people that go, and the atmosphere looks amazing. So I definitely it's a bucket list thing. So yeah, we need to do that as quickly as possible.
All right, we will do that. Hey, for everybody over here at Redline Network, everybody at Steel City Renegades, Steeler Nation, you guys have a great Sunday. Enjoy your Sunday. We'll be back here, same time, same channel next week.
See you, folks. Have a good one. We'll see you next week. want this play. Oh, gotta do this.
Redline Network introduces our newest partnership, Outlaw Light. Outlaw is crafted for all of the beer drinking patrons of America. They aren't preaching or teaching, their mission plain and simple, to provide a high quality beer at an affordable price. Outlaw is crisp, crushable, refreshing. Available by the case, tall boys, 16-ounce 6-packs or singles. Go to outlawbeer.com to find the nearest can or tavern near you. The Redline Network proudly raises their cans to you. Stay bold, Outlaw.